the only way to apply Canvas in your classroom, but I try to break it down for the most general usage of all of our teachers and stuff, just so they can better understand how to use it. And then from here, you can keep going. So what we show today and what we demonstrate today and in the 201 is not the limit. So please don't walk away feeling like, geez, I already knew all that. That's awesome if you know all that. But we're trying to, basically, here's the thing. We want people to understand how to use Canvas in the intentional way of we want students to be successful in Canvas. And so that's one of the reasons why we go through this process. So that being said, it is a snack. We're not going to go ahead and fill your bellies of knowledge, but we're going to do our best to do some of that information today. Comprehensive distance learning, it's going to be the same slide I'm going to use every single time, because I want people to understand that even though there's a definition that you could kind of find on the ODE website, we are doing our best to kind of reframe that. And this is the humanizing and intentional online learning. And there's not a manual written yet that I know of that tells you exactly how to do this very successfully. Our goal is to give you the tools and the support to make sure that all of our teachers are able to do that successfully. Yeah. So with that being said, a couple of things are going to be kind of new or used from yesterday. If you were here yesterday in our elementary, but basically I want you to think of Canvas as your virtual classroom. When you walk into your physical classroom, you have a whiteboard, you have an inbox, you have a place where you hand out papers or materials to students. So Canvas is the same thing. You will do the same thing with Canvas. You will give students completed work, they'll turn it into you. All of those things in that virtual classroom are going to be the same. It's just that the classroom in Canvas is that virtual space. And my favorite tagline for Canvas is basically, it's a place that tells the story of learning. And I want you to remember that, because though the learning at the beginning of the year is going to be rough and challenging, because I'm not going to lie to you, Canvas is an archive of that evidence. And so when you look back in a year or two and you're like, I got this, that's your evidence. That's where you came from. That's that manual they've been writing. And so Canvas will archive that for you and help you build that story of learning for your students. So real briefly, as far as if you're an elementary teacher here in our school district today and you're like, yeah, we're totally using Canvas in 4th grade or 5th grade, just briefly, real fast to let you know, we, meaning myself, will be going ahead and giving each elementary teacher 5 CAM courses. And so you're going to get a homeroom course. You'll get your math, your science/health, social studies, ELA, and I think I missed one, but I can't remember. But you'll get the 4 core and then a homeroom. Here's the point. You do not need to use all of them. You can choose to start with just the homeroom. And that's the advantage to this is, I'm not trying to give you the most perfect solution because I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to give you the most sustainable one that you will not have to make dramatic pivots in October. So by giving you 5 courses, a homeroom being one of them, you can just start using Canvas in that homeroom course. And then you can branch out and say, you know, I really want to dedicate a social studies course for my content. And for those who have never used Canvas, you're like, well, how do I do all that? Don't worry about the courses. We will give those to you. And we will give you a nice, cool, simple welcome homepage that you can personalize. So don't worry about that today. Today, we're not talking about making your pages beautiful. Today, we're talking about an overview of Canvas and getting into that. And as far as our secondary teachers, if you've been here before, you already know, secondary teachers get a course per subject. So if I taught Lit and Comp 9, I'd have one course called Lit and Comp 9. But inside of that are my class periods. And so that's the difference between elementary world and secondary, is that specific division of how Canvas is framed out for those teachers in those courses. So throw your questions in the chat. Like I said, those courses will not be populated until about a week before school starts, but you can actually start your own course today, and we'll show you how to briefly do that. And you can actually kind of play around and tool with Canvas today, and then you can bring those things into those courses. All right, is BSD addressing student Canvas experience? All right, this is a draft. It's not going out yet, so don't try to take a screenshot of it and then pin the whole mess on me, because we're not there yet. But in the effort of supporting comprehensive distance learning across the entire district, our goal is to give our teachers a framework for using Canvas consistently. So today you're going to hear that message over and over. We don't have it down to the very science of details yet, but there are a few very important things that we will be sharing with teachers, and we'll let you know up front. All of the framework for the Canvas agreements or having consistent experience for students is still enough for you to personalize Canvas, but enough to make it so that you're supporting families and students at home when they engage with Canvas. The big thing to remember is Canvas is for you to develop and deliver content. but your user, your student, and your family is the number one person or entity or unit that you have to keep in mind when you're creating that content. All right. So basically, I've broken Canvas down into 4 elements, and this is what we're focusing on over the next few weeks. Basically, is communication. We'll talk about that today. Creation. There's an arrow in creation on purpose because creation actually flows up and down. You're always going to be creating in Canvas. You just may not necessarily think about it that way as an intentional bucket on its own. And then content is what we'll be talking about as well. And the great thing about communication, creation, and content is that all 3 of those are very interwoven in Canvas. And then finally, consistency. Again, our goal is to make it so that we are being similar experience for our students, consistent in our approach. I see like I have Ann on here and Ann and Gianna. It doesn't necessarily mean that the 3 of us are doing everything the exact same way in our teaching, but it means we're using very similar ways of Canvas so that our students are not lost in our classrooms. Because remember, if you're using Canvas, it's your virtual classroom. And if you're starting out virtually in the fall, you won't see the white of their students' eyes when you're giving instructions. So your consistent approach to Canvas is going to be your most successful approach. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about a few things and then demo, and you're going to do. So communication. If you're not aware of this, the most powerful tool on Canvas is the calendar. That doesn't mean as a teacher you have to focus on the calendar. It just means that when you put due dates on everything in Canvas, it will automatically show up on the calendar for the students. And this is my daughter's Canvas course. So this is her logged in as a student. Or this is her parent, which is me logged in as a parent. And I want to find out, what does my daughter have to do this week? Well, if this was an empty calendar and I'm the parent and I'm supposed to support my child at home, I see nothing on there, I can't support my child very well. So the great thing about Canvas is you don't have to spend time in this space intentionally, but you can if you want to. But when you put due dates on Canvas assignments or quizzes, it shows up automatically. Okay. So the other part with communication that I want to talk about real briefly is this weekly agenda. One of the agreements that we're working on for our whole entire district is every single teacher who uses Canvas, in my opinion, it should be every teacher across the district regardless, is going to be sending out a weekly announcement. And in my opinion, it should be before 8 o'clock Monday morning. So if you want to send it out Sunday, great. Monday, whatever morning. And the reason why is this is the space that you're going to tell your students how to engage in the learning this week. So today in the Canvas calendar, I'm going to show you how to do that and how to get that calendar created. Or I'm sorry, how to get that event showing for your students so they understand. The whole point of this is if you think about your classroom, you know, on the whiteboard that you had, when your kids come in, what's the first thing they ask you? Somebody want to put it in the chat. What's the first question your students always ask you when they typically come into your classroom? I'll give you a moment to throw it in chat. So what's the first question that your students usually typically ask? Yeah, what are we doing today? See, Annie gets it already. What are we doing? Chrissy says yes. Yeah, this is the question that does not change in online learning. The same question is going to be asked. Yeah, how are you? Okay, I hope they ask you how you are doing too. I think that's great. Yeah, do you have a pencil? But the good news is you won't have to give a pencil at Canvas. Yeah, we had an assignment. Yes, so here's the whole point of this conversation. When your students walk into your physical classroom, you typically have a whiteboard. Here's what we're doing today, class and friends, right? And you might have a calendar. Here's what's upcoming. Well, in Canvas, it's probably going to be challenging to constantly show your physical whiteboard on Zoom, to be honest. So Canvas is your whiteboard. So that weekly agenda that you send out to students, which we'll show in a few minutes, and you can see on my example right here, is simply, here's what we're learning this week. It's not wickedly detailed, but it is enough to let a parent know or a student know of some coming up things. And you'll notice where I say real simple, here's 3 things we're learning and 2 tasks this week. If you're an elementary teacher, you're like, well, Chris, I get 5 subjects. How do I do that? Keep it simple. The detail of those really important information pieces can come later, but right now this is just your weekly agenda. And then finally, this answers the 4 most important questions. How, what's due? When is it due? How do I find it? And then finally, how did I do? Well, here's the thing. By putting everything on the Canvas calendar with a date, you automatically answer the question, what's due? You automatically answer the question, when is it due? And you automatically answer the question, how do I find it? So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. All right, next thing, can I add more than just boring text to any information that I send to my students? And the answer is 100% yes. Nicole and I are huge fans of using GIFs, of using images, of using color. We're big fans of going ahead and personalizing yourself in that space. And so I'll show you in a brief moment what that looks like. And then you'll notice it says the rich content editor. It's a big word. Honestly, if you've ever composed an email, it's the exact same thing. It's basically a place where you can go ahead and add pictures, color, a video, and all of that stuff. So the whole point of that is when you create things in Canvas, the rules are the same for everything. Okay. All right. And then I want to go into one last thing, which is communication tool. At the beginning of the school year, you're probably going to use email, phone calls, text messages. I don't know what other apps you might use, but the reality is you're going to use 5 or 6 or 10 digital tools to connect with your students. Carrier pigeon, you'll write postcards. And then once you know you have a connection to your students, your goal should be to narrow down the scope of those tools. And in my opinion, if you're if you're a Canvas user, my opinion should be, these should be your 3 tools you'll be using. So like I said, at the beginning of the year, you're going to be using this many tools. That's not sustainable in March. So narrow down the scope of those tools and how you're going to communicate with your students and families. And in my opinion, you can use your Canvas inbox because it's very, very simple. You can still use email, and you'll be using Zoom. And those 3 tools will be the most evident tools you'll be using. And what's great about the Canvas inbox and what's great about Zoom is they're both in Canvas. So you don't have to learn something else. Oh, Alexa, stop. It's my music. I apologize. Thanks for telling me about that. So Canvas inbox. So what I'm going to do is demo a couple things for you, and then we're going to go ahead and it's going to be, so it could be an I do, we do, and then you're going to go ahead and tell me how you feel about that. So that being said, I'm going to show you how to get into Canvas, and we're going to go ahead and do basically the first demo today in this session, and we're going to demo basically the calendar. So the first thing I'm going to do as a classroom teacher is I'm going to go ahead and go to staff, and I'm going to make sure that when I go to staff, I go to Canvas. And right here is where my Canvas button is. So if you've never used Canvas before, staff bookmarks, you can click the pencil and you can drag Canvas to be the most important thing at the front if you want to, like I feel like it should be for me. And then I can go ahead and now it's going to save, and Canvas will be at the top. So again, staff bookmarks, and I can go ahead and drag it. So right now I'm going to start at the calendar. And you're like, well, Chris, why are you starting at the calendar? Well, because this is the space where I can quickly and easily create that weekly agenda. Now, when I say weekly, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to enter a ton of stuff. I just want my students to know Sunday night or Monday morning, hey friends, here's what we're doing this week. Okay.
Hey, Chris,
So,
can I
yeah,
jump in as we're
Absolutely.
waiting for people to kind of load into Canvas?
Yes.
Two questions. One is, Molly asked earlier in the chat, what happens when there is an agenda item on the calendar that's crossed out, when there's something on the calendar that's crossed out?
Okay, I can answer that question.
And then someone else asked, when they opened up Canvas, they saw that their courses from last year were still showing up on the dashboard. And she's just wondering if there's anything that she needs to do or he needs to do to clear those out, or if those automatically get archived at some point. So
no, those
dashboard
are awesome.
management.
Yeah, I can address both of those questions. So with with anything on the Canvas calendar that is simply going to be crossed out, and I don't know if I have any examples of crossed out. With anything in Canvas that's crossed out, it's an assignment that a student submitted. So if you asked your students to submit a paper, if you ask your students to respond to a question, when they submit, it's crossed out for them. So that's a really important thing, because as parents, when we yell at the teacher, hey, my student turned this in, well, there's evidence in Canvas, again, to know whether the student submitted it or not. So real simple, it crosses it out for the student once they have submitted the assignment. With that being said, not everything in Canvas has to be an assignment. You have to intentionally decide that an assignment is something that my students are going to submit or turn in for evidence of learning. Information is not. And what I'm going to show you right now is that. And then the other question real quickly that I do want to answer, because it's a great question, is what do I do with my dashboard? And my dashboard is going to be full of Canvas courses. You may not have that many. Do not worry right now about your Canvas courses, because down below, you're going to have this unpublished courses, and you might even have a section that's called previous or previous courses. Canvas right now is fully open for every single student in our school district until I believe we're going to do it to August 17th, which means all the students you had last year, that Canvas course that you never knew you used or had is actually still there. So if you're a 4th grade teacher or 5th grade teacher, your 4th grade or 5th grade homeroom course is still in Canvas. It is still in your dashboard. You do not need to worry about it. You can actually jump in there if you want to and actually kind of look around. So there's no rules. But eventually that will move to the point where it's no longer on your dashboard. And speaking of dashboard, just really briefly, if I go to courses and all courses, apologize, I didn't mean for that to happen. If I go to courses and all courses, you'll notice that you have some little stars on here. All of these stars, or a no star, like for example, that's not a star. If I put a star on any course, that will show up automatically for me on the dashboard. So again, I went to courses, scroll all the way down to where it says all courses, and any course that has a star on it is going to show up on my dashboard. The same rule applies for students. The same rule applies for teachers and parents. So if you have a parent at home who goes, oh my gosh, how do I find your course? They can click on courses and all courses and put a star next to it. And yesterday I kind of went an overview, but I just want to take a second, just overview. If you've never used Canvas, you're like, Chris, I didn't show up yesterday. I missed yesterday, or this is my first time using Canvas. As soon as you log into Canvas, you're confronted with your dashboard. That is the courses that you're taking as a teacher, you're teaching, or it's the courses that a student is logged into. And like I mentioned, you could go ahead and move these courses around. You are allowed to even go ahead and click the little jelly beans and add a different color to those courses. So again, the little jelly beans allows you to add different colors. Why? Well, this is because some families have more than one child, and they might want to color one child's courses blue and another course green. So this gives flexibility to our parents who have more than one child in our district. So that's my dashboard. And then again, like I said, if I go to courses and all courses, then I'm able to go ahead and put a star next to any course that allows it to quickly show up. It's my favorite, effectively, is what that would be. No, we are going full on Canvas for 4th and 5th grade. Now, things are always changing, so it's possible that somebody who has a higher pay grade than me might decide that we're using Canvas in 3rd grade, but it's a good question. But as of right now, and as of what I know at this moment, teachers in their school, in combination of communicating with their principals in 4th and 5th grade, as a grade level, can use Canvas. And what I mean by in conjunction with your principal is, please don't assume anything. Communicate with your principal. That's really important. Parents will have a Canvas account. As soon as a parent has an active parent account in Parent View, a Canvas account is created for them automatically. And on our district webpage, I know I'm completely diverting for a second, but that's fine. On our district webpage, under Families and Parent Apps and Resources, there is a place for Canvas, and it says Canvas information. So our parents can learn how to activate their Canvas account. Okay, teachers, you do not have to do anything. The only thing you can do is, if you want to give them this link, hey, families go to the website, click on Families. The only thing you need to do is give them this link. You do not need to give them codes. You do not add parents at all. All of that's done for you. And parents automatically have that account for them created. So, sorry, I apologize, but side note, because we have set that up for them. So with that being said, I'm in my dashboard. I have no idea where I'm at here. And I've started the courses that are my favorite. Well, now if I go back to my slides, what was I doing? Well, really what I wanted to do is actually have you take a second, and I'm going to have you log into Canvas, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at this Canvas calendar. And then I'm going to have you make a weekly event, and you can make it up. It doesn't have to be real, but we're going to try to go ahead and make a weekly event, something that you want to alert your students of Sunday or Monday morning. Here's what we're learning this week. Okay. All right. With that being said, I am on my calendar. And for those of you at home, you're like, Chris, whoa, how do I get to the calendar? On the far left-hand side, you'll notice where it says dashboard, courses, and calendar. And I'm going to leave my mouse here. So if you want to follow along with me, if you just want to watch, that's awesome. If you were like, no, I want to do this right now, then on the left-hand side, you can click on calendar and it will open up a calendar for you. And like I said, this is part of my communication, because somebody had mentioned earlier about parents. The most powerful feature about Canvas is to be able to use that communication tool, which is the calendar. Every parent in our district can go to their calendar and see what their child is doing and what's due and when it's due, if teachers do that correctly. So,
and I'm going to jump in real
yeah,
quickly, because Chris did a great job in the spring to push forward and provide tutorials for families. We did that both in English and Spanish, and the positive results we got back from the community on that were huge. So I would imagine come fall, we'll probably be doing those again. So when you might hear that, push that out to your parents, because the access that parents have with Canvas is huge, but they, like us, they need to be taught how to find things and how to navigate. So push that out, remind your communities, because that the response was very positive. The parents really appreciated when we did those. So,
you know, and 100%, and again, like just exactly what Nicole said, and the reason why this is like Chris is kind of slower, laborsome, perhaps there's an intentionality in what I'm doing is if we understand why being consistent in using Canvas is important, then whatever video you choose to make to show your parents how to navigate Canvas will most likely be very similar to your neighbors. May not be the same, but a calendar is a calendar. A due date is a due date. So when I'm saying, when somebody asks about these resources, yeah, we have them for the district level, but as a teacher, I think it kind of falls on me to make a short screencast or a short video of how to navigate Canvas. And we're going to set it up very similar for every teacher so that your video to your parents is going to be very similar to what other parents will see. Okay. So with that being said, I'm on my course calendar, and on the right-hand side, you're going to notice where it has all these calendars. Well, I have a ton of calendar courses because that's what I do, but I can select, unselect any Canvas course I want by clicking on the little box. And even so, I can go ahead and add colors. Now, I'm telling you this because as a classroom teacher, if you're going to create a Canvas course, if you're going to start using the Canvas calendar, you have the ability to decide, you know what, I don't really want all of my courses to show up on Canvas. I'm going to go ahead and maybe narrow down that field. Students have the same rules. Parents have the same rules. If I'm a parent right now, which I am, I can log in and go, you know what, I only want to look at this course here. I don't really want to worry about the other courses on the calendar. And right now, I'm only seeing the daily agenda for ELA. That's the only one that I see. Okay, so parents have the same rules, teachers have the same rules, students have the same rules. Not only that, can I look at it for the month, but if I want to look at my calendar, it's really super messy, I can click at the top where it says agenda. And this will now give my students, my parents, and myself a simple way of looking at things. So we haven't really created anything yet. I'll show you in a second how to do that. But at the very least, if there's one thing we need to share our students is be able to know how to handle and manage their own Canvas calendar. That is a skill that they're going to have the rest of their life. It may not be Canvas when they're 25, but it'll be a calendar. And so if we can help our students understand that you can look at it by the month, you can go ahead and unselect the important and non-important courses, and you can look at it by an agenda. We've already helped our students who feel overwhelmed be able to look at things in a way that fits them and fits their need. Okay. All right. So I say all that to you because right now, a few minutes ago, I had mentioned to you that one of the things we really want to stress for our teachers across the entire district is this consistent approach to communication. How are you going to let your students know today is Monday, here's what we're doing this week? And so what I'm going to do right now is show you my calendar, and I basically have this ELA agenda created already. And I'll show you how to build it. Just waiting for it. There we go. Here's my calendar. So what I'm telling you is, if my students come into my school, into my classroom, I have an agenda on the whiteboard, but in the virtual world, I'm not going to have one. So I'm going to create one on, what's today, Monday the 3rd. So I'm going to create one on Monday. So when my students walk into class Monday, they say to me, hey, Mr. Chris, what are we doing today? But in virtual world, that might be challenging to ask me that question because, by the way, please don't email me what we're doing today. That's what I would tell my students, right? So to alleviate that, I'm going to say the procedures and routine in this class is to make sure we are on the calendar and to look at our event. And right now, this is what it says. This is what we're doing today. There are 3 things we're learning today. There's 2 things that we're specifically doing. I put a little cat GIF in there because I think cats are cool, just to make this event, this agenda real simple, okay? And if students click on the title, this is the title. it opens up to the big screen, and now my students have the exact same agenda, but they see it a little bit larger. So again, you can move from the calendar, and this is my calendar view, by moving on just to the calendar, oops. And then I can go ahead and click on the calendar, and when I do that, it opens up to the big screen. And now you'll notice I've had my things mentioned. Here's what things we're doing in class. And I even went ahead and recorded a short video, which I don't think you're gonna be able to hear myself, but I'm basically reading my instructions, what we're doing to my students in class. Yeah, I know you can't hear, and that's totally fine. So, consistency approach. This is not like, we haven't gotten into creating content. We haven't gotten creating all of the things you can do in Canvas. Today, we're just talking about telling their students what you're doing this week. And that's really the goal of this assignment today. So I would like for all of you to go ahead and find your calendar. And I want you to click on any day of the week. And it should open up to a window that looks just like this. Boom, there it is. And that window allows me to simply choose what I'm writing down. And right now you'll notice where it says event. And so this is where I'm gonna write down my day, actually I'm gonna call it a weekly agenda. If I'm a 5th grade teacher, I might have a real simple agenda at the beginning of the school year. I'm not gonna involve all the content. This is what we're doing for the next couple of days in class. We're gonna meet with each other on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or we're gonna go ahead and complete some real simple tasks. If you're a high school teacher and you teach biology, what do you think you're working on that week? You know, and this doesn't have to be perfect. You're not gonna make the most detailed agenda for your students. Just kind of give them an idea of what we're working on this week. So once you type in your title, weekly agenda, if you're a high school teacher, I would say weekly agenda, and I would type in math and then maybe the grade level. If you're an elementary teacher, you can just do weekly agenda because your students only have you, okay? All right. Then I'm gonna go ahead down here where it says calendar. And this is where it's really important that you choose the calendar of your correct course. For now, you can all choose your own personal calendar. That's totally fine. I don't know if you, because you're such a wide audience today, I don't know if you are a high school teacher or elementary teacher, but if you're a high school or junior high teacher, you already have Canvas courses. You can publish it to any course you want. If you're elementary and you haven't started, then you might want to just do your personal calendar, and that's totally fine. It's the same exact example or same exact thing. And somebody had mentioned earlier, like, you know, how are we going to build and try things? And the reason why I'm showing this is because the rules to building anything in Canvas are the same. And so what I'm showing you right now is the simplest approach is this agenda. What are we learning about this week? So I'm going to choose my course, and I'm going to click on more options. And this is where I can say, this is a really simple agenda. I'm not here to, at this moment in time, fill up the agenda in the first week of school with tons and tons of stuff. Second week of school, third week of school, I might add some more information, but right now I'm trying to keep it simple. And then earlier I talked about, like, not everything has to be text. So I'm going to highlight my title. And then where it says paragraph, I'm going to make sure I have a header, because I want to keep things a little larger, a little bit bold. If you put your mouse over everything, and I want you to remember, this is just like composing an email. It's just like composing a Google document. The same rules pretty much apply. I can make fonts larger or smaller. I can add color to fonts. The only thing that I can't do in this space is change the font, but that is coming very, very, very soon, probably in the next couple of days. And then I'm going to go ahead and just simply say, here's some things we're doing this week. I'm not going to do everything in the class. I'm just going to do the couple things. And then I want my students to watch this video. And I'm going to record myself watching and making myself record myself. So right here where it says record audio, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go ahead and record myself. The whole point of this is you can add some text, you can add some color. It doesn't always have to be just a ton of stuff. And then you can go ahead and record yourself saying whatever you need for your students. Hey, welcome to class today. This week we are working on getting to know each other. I'm so glad you're here. And in a few minutes, I want you to go ahead and click on our opening discussion and add something about yourself. That's going to take a moment to save because it just does. That's just what happens. But basically, and this is me going back to my Canvas calendar. It's kind of like a cooking show. Well, while it's saving, I'll go back to my calendar. Basically, what I'm introducing to you is the simplest approach. Just telling your students what we're learning this week. Yeah, I'll show you the video piece as well. It's loading right now. The video piece is right here. So all of this information, I'm gonna blow up my screen because I think you're having a hard time seeing it. So here's my screen, a little bit larger. So right here where it says YouTube, and then there's an external tool, right here where it says record and upload video. The cool thing about this is you don't have to record a video. You could actually upload it from your phone. You could be out walking down the street with your friends, record a short video, and then you could go ahead and take that video and post it into Canvas. If you don't have all the options, one of the reasons why you may not have the options, you may not have YouTube, because if you're using your personal calendar, YouTube doesn't show up, but the rest of them will show up. And then once I've completed my agenda, I'm going to go ahead and hit create event. And again, I went back to my calendar. So when my students Monday morning are going to show up to my Zoom, or I'm going to communicate with my students, hey, this is what we're doing this week. I'm going to try to build a routine that each Monday, my students will click on the agenda so that they can learn what we're doing this week. Now, this is very broad. Some of you are like, well, I have very specific details about the subject that we're looking at. And those things you can add as well, but you won't add them to this calendar. You just want to make it very, very simple. Can you upload a picture? Somebody said, oh my goodness, that's my favorite part. Not only can you add GIFs, more options. Not only can you add GIFs, not only can you add it, but I can add a picture. So on the right-hand side, I'm going to choose image. And I'm going to go ahead and upload a photo. And I happen to have, I don't really know if I have any pictures or not. I probably do have some photos. There we go. That was how I felt the other day. Coffee. And I can add photos. I can add GIFs. I can add anything to this. And the thing is, too, what's awesome is the same rules pretty much apply for students. Your students can also go ahead and add photos or things to things when they're responding back to you. Can you reuse the same template? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in. So one thing that Chris kind of did and didn't really mention, when you upload a photo, it automatically asks you to provide the alternative text. So another reason why we use some of the tools that we're using specifically within Canvas is there is some ADA compliance things that are built into the program. That was one of them. So every time you upload an image, it's going to ask you to provide a text identifier for what that image is. And so you can either, there's a button underneath it where you can check that just says, I think like decorative photo or something. Chris, remind me what it says. Yeah. Or you can take a little bit of a few extra seconds and type in what it is. And then if we have students that are seeing impaired, they can potentially be read that alternative text. I have another question at one point when you're ready for it, but yeah. I don't want to uproot your flow too much.
Well, somebody had asked, could I reuse the same template? And you can use it if you want to. But again, I'm coming from a point of view of this is just my weekly. You can, and I'm not saying you can't, you can choose to make one every single day if you want to, so that students in your course, especially for elementary, that you might go down that road of choosing one every day. But here's the thing, and you're like, well, Chris, why the calendar? Like, what's the point of doing it? It is not the only way to inform students. You can make a Canvas announcement, which we didn't show. It's not the only way, but the reality is when your students pull out their phone, if they have to click into each one of your courses to find out what's going on, now I'm 3 clicks deep into knowing what's going on. The calendar gives me the fastest approach to see what's going on. We are going to teach you how to build content. We're going to teach you how to organize it in modules. These are all the things we will be teaching you. But at the very basic, if you're like, Chris, what can I do today? Like, I have like 10 minutes on my phone, or I can spend some time today on my computer. What can I do today? Well, I think what you could do is just go to the calendar, click anywhere on any day, and just spend a few minutes saying, well, what does that look like? If I click more options, what can I add to this? Because the same rule applies for discussions, assignments, quizzes. It's the exact same thing. You can add information, you can add pictures. If some of you are like wild and crazy and you want to add a link, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you notice, but I actually have, what's cool about when I click on my calendar is I can actually add a YouTube video. Now, don't get too much. This is supposed to be a simple agenda. The reality is you don't write the entire detailed agenda in your whiteboard when your students come in. I mean, I never did as a teacher, but maybe you do. But I want to keep this simple. I don't want my parents and students having to scroll for 3 miles to find out what we're doing. Keep it simple at the very beginning. The details of all those things we're going to help you with all that information as well. And just one last thing. I can't come up with a better term, but parents as partners or families as partners. This is the lesson plan for your families as well as your student. Again, not super detailed. It's got some information on here, but I want my families to be aware of what's going on. And you're like, well, Chris, can families go ahead and translate my calendar of information into another language? And the answer is yes, if they use the Google Translate bar, because I can go ahead and click on my agenda and I can come up here where it says translate. I want to translate this page and I want to do it into what language. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a different language. So I'm going to choose Italian, and it will translate my calendar for them using Google Translate. So it's not perfect. It's not the most efficient and elegant, but if I had a student at home who's like, my parents only speak Italian, how can I help my parents understand what we're doing? If parents want to use the Google Translate in Chrome or something like that, they can. On the phone, it's not necessarily the same. I apologize, but on my own devices, I can go ahead and do that. All right. We're running out of time.
Hey, Chris,
go ahead.
Can you really quickly answer Mary's question? What is the difference between event, assignment, and to-do, and why would you maybe use them differently?
Yes, good call.
So I think that fits right with what you're doing.
And this is an incredibly important question. So what is the difference between an event and an assignment? You can investigate on your own. Like, Chris, what am I going to do today? You can click on assignment. Well, an assignment is literally what it sounds like. It is something that my students are going to do and submit or turn into me. The difference is this is information. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't show up on your to-do list. It doesn't annoy you because it doesn't go away. It's just something that we're doing today that you're learning about. An event, an assignment is something that my students aren't aware of. And so, for example, this is I'll go back to a different assignment. Here it is right here. Submit multiple files. So this is an assignment and I can put it on any day I want. This shows up for the students on the day that it's due. And that's something that I want them to turn into me. So if you're saying to yourself, I need to tell my students about a Zoom event, that's not an assignment. That's calendar event, or that perhaps if you're using email, that's fine. But if it's like, I need my students to turn in a short paragraph, that's an assignment. That's something that they need to be aware of, a due date, and they're submitting it and turning it into you. It is possible that you could have students do something and not turn it into you, and that's totally fine. But do not make everything in the student's life an assignment. It will drive them nuts. It will blow up your grade book, and you will get super frustrated. Okay? Can you assign assignments to only some classes? My favorite question. You can assign an assignment to one class period, all class periods, an individual student, and with different dates. So for those of you who want to differentiate between supporting different students, I could say, Nicole, your assignment is due Monday, and then I could say, Annie, your assignment is due on Thursday. Well, Nicole doesn't know about her classmate. She only knows about her assignment. It shows up for her on her calendar. Okay, so that's where the powerful part about Canvas and differentiation comes in. I didn't go down the road of Google Classroom and Seesaw because this is not which is better. This is simply, we're using Canvas, if that's your tool you're choosing, and you're going to learn about all the powerful tools that you're going to be able to use. Well, right now, the most powerful tool you can use in Canvas is knowing how to communicate with your students a weekly agenda, at least being aware of the calendar, and then you can play around. I do want to give you this last piece. This is what I'm kind of finished with because I have to kind of move on. But this, I'm putting this in the chat, Nicole. Okay. This is my, I can't remember if Nicole and I talked about this or not. I love Symbaloo. It is probably one of my favorite digital tools of all time. because of how I can truly orchestrate and differentiate. So if you've never used Symbaloo, it's a whole nother lesson. But the point of this is the link I just put in, everyone has access to this course in our school district. And on this link, I put in things like, oh, I can make a homepage. I can go ahead and create a Canvas calendar event. Oh, Chris has got stuff in here about tutorials or how to customize. We're not covering everything today, and nor in their 201 will we cover everything. But at least you could leave today going, okay, cool. I got a resource. I can go ahead and try something else.
I want to approach a question that someone kind of asked earlier. I had mentioned that parents can't view students' responses or other students' responses,
in discussions.
but can students, well, yes, exactly. But can students see each other's responses if we don't want them to for confidentiality? Is there a way to change that? And so I was going to kind of come back to that question, and you alluded to it as well. You know, what do I want my students to do with this information? And then based on that answer, kind of guides you into making your decisions about what you're about to build with that information for the students. If you want the students to respond to you and show what they know, but you don't want other students to see it, you don't want that collaborative atmosphere, then you're probably building an assignment or doing a quiz. Yeah. But if you do want students to engage with each other and do that peer-to-peer, then you're looking at discussions.
So even, yeah, you're right. The simplest thing, the simplest way to think about this is in the classroom. Do I want my students to turn in something to me or have everybody see it? Well, if they're turning it to my inbox, that's to me. If they're putting it on the bulletin board, or if they're simply putting it in a space where other classmates can read it, like Nicole said, that could be a classroom discussion. So as a classroom teacher, rely on what you know. You know these things. You know the difference between everybody sees it versus me seeing it. It's just a matter of looking at Canvas and saying, well, what's this tool do and how do I use it? But rely on your own experience that you can do that as well. I do have to go because I have another session in a few minutes. I apologize. I did hit stop share. I didn't mean to hit stop share, but apparently I just hit stop sharing. But that being